are you?
I'm good, Junior. How are you doing?
I'm good.
It's good to meet you.
Let's start with the questions. Miss Berges, please describe a typical day and the tools you use to do your job.
A typical day. Well, I think a lot of times you hear people talk about the different hats that they wear. You know, they wear one hat or another. And a typical day is acquiring 50 or 60 different hats. You know, whether it's organizing or being on the radio or coming up with content. That's one of the biggest hats I have to wear. I have to come up with this content all the time and every day. And so I'm actually on the radio every day of the week. And so you have a show that you have to write and you have to come up with something that you think people will be interested in or it'll connect them in their life somehow. Also, I am a therapist, so I meet with individuals on a daily basis pretty much to help them find what they need to find in their life to make their life better and to basically help co-create a life that has a lot of meaning where that they feel that they're actually getting the most out of what they're doing. Because I think a lot of times we have most of the tools, but there's certain tools that we're missing in our life. And so I want to inspire people. I want to help them find that, but also I want to give them the information that they need to help them basically create that in their life, because I think we're just sometimes one step off from having that awesome life that we deserve.
Thank you. Ms. Bridges, how did you know you wanted to do this career?
When I was a kid, pretty much about your age, Junior, I wrote a lot, and I would write stuff all the time, and I would write, you know, how I felt, or like how I felt about family or my life or something that was going on at the time in school or my friends or something like that that was really important. And I would share this with my mom, you know, and she was like my biggest champion. She would read no matter what I wrote, and I knew that to some degree I was going to be a writer. But I also knew that I wanted to help people, and I had a babysitter when I was young that I actually helped a lot counsel her going through a lot of things that she went through in her life, some family dramas and some issues. And I realized that I was in elementary school counseling her, so there's got to be something in the future about that.
Thank you. Ms. Bridges, after you graduated high school, you went to college. How many years did you attend college, and what degree did you need?
Oh, college. Oh, there's so much work. Well, you know, my first year, I'll be honest with you, I had some fun. So we went from the 4-year plan to the 5-year plan, and then went back to get a second degree, and that was another bachelor's. And then I went back and got a master's degree, and that was another 2 years. So it was a lot of time, but I did the second bachelor's in 3 years instead of 4, did the master's in about 18 months instead of 2 full years. So all that combined, and then I had to do some work too. I had to follow some people, and I had to learn, and I had to do some hours on top of that, on top of the schooling. So that was a lot of time, but I think you have to take it one step at a time. So don't think about that. You know, think about, okay, when I get to college, will I go to a 2-year school? Will I go to a community college? What does that look like? And take one semester at a time and just focus on that, and you'll be fine. Otherwise, if you look at it from this huge mountain, it's going to be overwhelming.
Thank you. Ms. Burgess, what course of study are necessary to do this career? Some examples are reading, math, writing, social studies, computer, physical education, music, and art, or others.
So as far as studies are concerned, first off, psychology is one of the major things that you have to study. Psychology, you have to understand the human condition is a big deal. You know, you have to take the regular classes. You got to take the math and the sciences and all that kind of stuff. You know, to some degree, if you're looking to be a doctor, you know, you're going to have to get into medical school and that kind of stuff. It kind of takes everything. It's not as much math as it is psychology and writing and the English component. That's really important. And I think that when you're at this age, you begin to realize what you are good at. And so don't try to be something that you can't be necessarily, that doesn't come second nature, because there are certain things, I mean, I don't think I could have been like a physicist, you know, I mean, there's certain things that I think I would have had to work really, really hard, and there's other people that have that almost like second nature for them. And so really focusing on what works for you. And so, yeah, it takes a lot, but psychology is one of the biggest things. As well as I have a radio, TV, film background as well, and a direction background, so I can direct shoot and edit everything that I work at. I can light any scene and I can shoot with almost any camera.
Thank you. Ms. Berge, what do you like the most and least about your career?
What I like the most about it is I feel like I'm making an impact in our daily lives with folks. I would like to make a bigger impact. I think sometimes I feel limited where there's a limited amount of folks that are there that can really hear the message. And I think that right now, more than ever in our lives and in our communities, we need to be vigilant about getting the good word out and about helping people find their true self. And also, I think big time is that we just need to be real. And I think that when you show people that you're real and you're honest, I think that that goes a long way. And sharing that with people and saying, you know, hey, it doesn't make you wrong. It actually makes you stronger. And that's my only setback, because I'd like to be able to speak to more folks. And this is what I'm doing here today. And so this is already coming true. So it's a really good thing. So I'm glad to be here.
So, in the least about that you don't like?
The least thing is not being able to communicate with as many people as I'd like, and not being able to see everybody. Because like when you're on the radio, you can't see everybody that's listening to the show, and you just hope that there's people that are really being impacted by it, you know. And you think it would be nice to kind of see those folks, or nice to kind of know exactly who's listening. So you have to kind of just go with the fact that you're making changes, but you're not always going to see the people that it's affected by.
Ms. Bridges, regrading pay. Is this a good paying job or a great paying job?
Good question. Well, I'd like to say that it's a great paying job, but it's one of those things in life where you have to work hard to get what you want. And in any sort of radio syndication, you know, back in the day, it was a very lucrative thing, and now it's very different. So I would say, you know, if you really want to make money in the radio industry, you need to be on about 100 to 500 stations, probably more like 500 stations in the country. As far as right now, it is not a high-paying job, but it's doing what you love and knowing that as you keep going, there will be more pay, but it's not always about the pay, right? It's about doing what's right. It's about feeling good. It's about being able to look in the mirror every morning when you wake up and every night when you get home, and knowing that you're doing the right thing. You're not walking all over people. You're not taking advantage of people. You're not lying and cheating to people, but you're actually helping the world be a better place. And so I would like to tell you that I'd like to make more money, definitely, and I think it will eventually come, but I think right now it's just the way it is. I mean, you have your teachers and your principal and your vice principal that they do all this work all the time, and they come here every morning, early in the morning, and they leave late at night. And you look around, and I'm not putting down sports folks at all, but I'm just saying that to some degree you have these football players that make all this money, and what is the impact that they're doing in our community, right? Because you have teachers that literally show up every morning and leave at the very end of the day where it's completely dark outside, and they get into their car and they go home and they stand in the kitchen and they eat, okay, and they get ready for the next day. And this is something that's really important, I think, and that's why I'm really here too, because it really impacts my life. My mom was a teacher, and my mom did teaching for a long time and then became a vice principal and a principal, and all that time she would get up at 4 a.m. in the morning and get home at like 9 p.m. And I just think that this society so far, when people do the right thing, it's like financially they're not impacted in the right way. And I want to bring that to the forefront, because I think when people are really doing the right thing, they should be compensated to some degree for it as well. And I think that's why we're here today too, because I think that we need to shine the light on the teachers and the administrators that actually go the distance to try to impact you and the rest of these kids in an amazing way, so that they have a good life and so that they are able to succeed.
Thank you. Ms. Bridges, are there many people qualified for this job, or do many people need it to be educated to do this career?
It takes a lot of education, and I think in anything in life, you're going to have folks that are highly educated that might not be fully connected to what they're doing, and then you'll have other people that aren't holistically educated. So I guess my answer to your question is, you have to be educated to do this career, and you have to get the schooling, and you have to go to school, and you got to get the degrees, and you got to do that stuff. You got to jump through the hoops. But on the flip side, to do what I do, you have to understand the human condition, but you have to understand it because you had to understand yourself. And that's something that takes a lot of soulful work. And when I graduated high school, I went to a retreat that you couldn't speak to anybody but yourself for 10 solid days. And I was 17 years old, and I learned a lot about myself, and I've continued that spiritual growth my whole life. And so when I'm working with a client, I can understand why they feel a certain way, because I've either been there to some degree in my own personal life, or I understand it so well because I can see it from all different perspectives. And you just can't have any sort of judgment when you do what I do. You can't judge people, because judging people really, it kind of divides you from the rest of everybody. It would be like if you went to school and you saw somebody, you know, holding a backpack or talking about something, you're like, oh, they're totally wrong, they're totally mistaken, when in reality, there might be some reality in what they're saying, but we got to look at it from a different way. And everybody's really connected, and when we have a tendency of judging, what we do is we divide ourselves up from the rest of our community, which kind of impacts us in a negative way.
Thank you. Ms. Bridges, is there any advice you will give to the students in this career?
Advice that I'd give the students that are interested? Okay, definitely. I think one of the biggest things is to just be honest with yourself and ask yourself, what is it that you're interested in? Are you interested in helping people? Are you interested in understanding people? Are you interested in helping people get the right advice and impacting people's lives? And are you willing to do the personal work? Because when you go in to be a therapist, the best therapist can't have a bunch of baggage. You had to have dealt with your baggage. You had to be real with yourself. You probably had to go into some therapy yourself, which I advocate. And you have to be honest about it. And I think that if you're willing to do that, and you're willing to see all the stuff, all the good, the bad, and the stuff that we're not always happy with ourselves about, and work with it, I think this is definitely a direction that you should take.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. Do you think your job is harder because you're a woman?
That's a good question. No, you stumped me on that. I like that. I think to some degree there might be more difficult in the beginning, but I think we can always overcome it by being ourselves and not really focusing on that. Surely there's been times in my life that I haven't gotten things because I'm a woman, to be quite honest with you. It would have been easier for a man to probably overcome that. But then I realized that because I wasn't allowed that, that's okay. At the time, I felt like I was getting slighted. I was being overlooked. But then I realized later on down the road, that probably wasn't the road that I needed to take anyway. And so I guess that's how I accommodated peace with that. But I think to some degree, it can be, because they might not necessarily look at you as being sometimes as knowledgeable as you are. And then I think sometimes maybe you're not in the scene or the group so much. But I think I've overcome that as much as possible.
Thank you.
Good question, by the way. What's your name?
Yahaira.
Yahaira.
Yeah.
Oh, great name. It's good to meet you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good. My name is Stacy.
Good to meet you. How are you doing today?
Good.
Good.
What were the struggles that you have to go through to get where you are?
I think a lot of it was dealing with like schooling and overcoming that, but the self-esteem component is hard. You know, when I think we're all raised to a degree that there's certain things about us that we like, and I think there's certain things about us that we don't feel like we're good enough. And I think that overcoming that feeling of not being good enough was something that I had to work through. And I think we work through it every day. I don't think you just work through it one day and go, oh, I'm done, I'm perfect, I'm the best of the best. You know, I think that you have to deal with it and see, where are my self-esteem issues coming from? Why do I not feel good enough? And I think we go through that in our career. And I think that folks go through that all the time, where you're having to overcome that. And I think that as you keep working on that self-esteem component and being aware of those challenges, I think that's one of the biggest things, because we sell ourselves short when we don't have that full self-esteem, because we don't feel like we're good enough. We feel everybody's better than us. And so the more we work toward that, I think the more we excel on more ways than one.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was good talking to you.
Ms. Berges, thank you for sharing with with us about your career.
Well, I'm so glad I was able to, Junior. You're amazing. I look forward to you interviewing me in the future. You think we can do that?
Maybe.
Okay, maybe. Maybe I'll ask you some questions. How is that?
Oh,
Hey,
hi,
how you doing?
Melody Paschall.
Melody,
I am
great to
the
meet you.
executive director over all the schools in the funeral
Oh,
pattern.
it's great. It's great to meet you.
So hello everyone. We're so excited. Every single school is represented, so we appreciate your involvement on that. Good job. And we're so fortunate to have you here because not only we have two careers. We have an author, and then we have someone that's in radio and television. So we got a double whammy for our one visit today. And so thank you guys for attending, and thank you all of you teachers for taking the time for this important event. So thank you again so much for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.